let's get things started. Hey guys, Hattopy here. A short while after getting Megaman Battle Network 3, Megaman Battle Network 4 hit store shelves and I managed to snag a copy. Blue Moon to be more specific. I don't really know why. I kind of prefer the color red over blue, so I should have got Red Sun, but anywho. I've plugged a lot of hours into this game. At one point I even had like 6 full playthroughs of New Game Plus done on this cartridge. Why would I leave it, you might ask? Well, we're going to get more into specifics later on, but let's just say that I didn't really want to lose the progress that I had made in the game. I had a habit of doing that a lot when I was younger, restarting a lot of my games, mostly with Pokemon since it gave me an excuse to have another adventure with whatever, but anywho, Battle Network 4 made it pretty hard to try to restart the game, but that aside, we're going to take a look today at Mega Man Battle Network 4 Blue Moon and Red Sun. So Mega Man Battle Network 4 takes place a couple months after the end of Battle Network 3. Lan is in the 6th grade now alongside his friends. While he tries to go about living his daily life, a new crime syndicate known as Nebula surfaces, corrupting Navis around the net with things called dark chips. Meanwhile, a worldwide catastrophe threatens all of humanity as an asteroid impact detected by Lan's father and his co-workers at Naxxa appears imminent. So, talking about Mega Man Battle Network 4 plot is, compared to the last game, it's like night and day almost. The main focal point of Mega Man Battle Network 4's plot barely exists within the time spent playing the game. At least with the last one, the arcs are actually punctuated by a villain striving to acquire the next MacGuffin to advance the plot. With 4, though, the opening sets up what the baddies are going to be like, which is then followed by like 3 different tournament arcs, which are then slightly segmented by different interluding sequences that kind of advance the plot, but it's so little and it just feels so uninteresting to me, at least. Needless to say, it just wasn't very good. I'm the type of person that gets surprised by stuff pretty easily, so when I can tell right away who your bad guy is, but still have the game expect me to be surprised by the revelation of that, no, you done goofed. And even those mini stories told during the tournament sections aren't really that good. If I compared Mega Man Battle Network 3's arcs to something like 30-minute cartoons, then Battle Network 4's are more akin to shows that segment whole narratives into 15-minute sequences like SpongeBob or Fairly Odd Parents, purely made to showcase a character quirk or action and barely anything more. Not even counting the fact that the main story for the whole game itself is incredibly short, though we'll get back to that in a second. Musically, there isn't much to say. It's about on par with 3. Nothing really stuck out to me. The big change to how the presentation is like is, of course, with the sprite work. Unlike the much larger sprites for characters in the first Mega Man Battle Network games, 4 kicks off the new trilogy with newer graphics. Sprites are much more chibified and, more positively speaking, colors I feel are much more saturated, giving the world a little bit more pop to it. I've always felt slightly indifferent about the sprites though. The lack of the detail on them kind of felt meh to me, but I feel like the reasoning behind it was to allow for an overall larger overworld. Just guessing, I ain't much of a techie. As for the gameplay, there are a few neat changes. Firstly, Mega Man has an emotional status in the upper left of the screen. Depending on certain conditions, Mega Man's attitude towards the battle can change, though not by much. As I said last video, if Mega Man can strike an enemy with a chip just before they attack, Mega Man performs a counter, entering full synchro, doubling the strength of his next chip and freezing the enemy you countered. As well, if Mega Man keeps taking minor damage, gets stunned, or otherwise performs bad, Mega Man can either become angry with his next attacks doing double damage, or for basically kind of the same reasons, adding on if Mega Man misses a lot, he can also become nervous. In that state, Mega Man can't perform a feature I'll touch on in a second, and gains access to dark chips. Dark chips are introduced partway through the story and are extremely powerful chips that far exceed almost all other chips. The downside being that when used, it permanently lowers Mega Man's health by 1 point and puts Mega Man into a Dark Soul state. Using it very little doesn't impact much, but the more you use it, and if you also take damage in the dark state, Mega Man can go berserk, losing all control of Mega Man until the battle is won or he dies. Persistent use can even cause Mega Man to start battles that way too, punishment for relying on the dark chips, which is kind of a neat gameplay function, but ruined by the story since it doesn't really change Mega Man outside of battle. Missing from these games are style changes, replaced with a double soul system. Harkening back to OG Mega Man, after defeating certain Navis throughout the tournament arcs, Mega Man can actually inherit one of the Navi's souls, being able to use its abilities during mid-fights. As long as Mega Man's not in a nervous or dark state, you can actually sacrifice a corresponding element-type chip to be able to use that Navi's abilities and change Mega Man's Buster type and gain a whole bunch of different stuff to be able to use in combat. Now, I'll name them off here, but what's important to note is that the version differences between the games actually starts to play a bigger role from here on out, since the type of souls, i.e. the type of Navis you fight throughout the tournaments, change depending on the game that you get. So, let's take a look at some of them. So for Blue Moon, there's Aqua Soul, which gives Mega Man the water element, powering up said chips and giving Mega Man's Buster a fast-charging bubbler effect. Metal Soul lets Mega Man charge break and normal type chips, and has a super strong single space smash for his charged up Buster. Wood Soul changes the whole field to grass, and gives Mega Man's Buster a tornado charge that hits 2 spaces ahead of Mega Man, as well as stronger wood type chips. Number Soul gives Mega Man more chips to pick from the custom screen, stronger damage on normal type chips, and a charged dice bomb that changes its power with each throw. Junk Soul confuses enemies upon usage and can recycle previously used chips, as well as having a charge shot that pauses time and flings any objects on the field towards the enemy for high damage. And lastly, Proto/Blue Soul has a wide sword for a charged attack, a built-in shield you can use whenever, as well as having sword type chips being able to be charged to allow Mega Man to perform a 2-step teleport. Red Sun has Guts Soul, which has a machine gun buster that makes you invincible in use, a charged Guts Punch in a single spot for decent damage and pushback, as well as extra damage on normal type chips. Roll Soul has an arrow that can be charged that breaks enemies' chips if there is any, as well as heal health with every chip used. Thunder Soul has a Zap Rain charge, as well as paralyzing effects to all Thunder and normal type chips. Fire Soul adds grass panels, a flamethrower charge shot, as well as charging fire type chips to make an enhanced flamethrower. Search Soul, God damn it. Search Soul, gosh, I'll never be able to say it. Search Soul has a charge shot that hits enemies no matter where Mega Man or the enemy are at, cancels enemy invisibility, and lets Mega Man shuffle the custom screen. And Wind Soul, which makes the regular Buster an air shot, a charged Wind Rake attack, depleted enemies' auras, pulls enemies towards Mega Man, has float shoes on to negate panel types and extra damage on Wind type chips. Damn! Wind Soul is awesome! And yeah, that's all of them, and to be honest, I'd probably take most, if not all, of Red Sun Souls over almost any of the Blue Moon ones, with my particular favorites being obviously Wind Soul for being badass, Search and Roll Soul for being just as helpful and decent with their designs, as well as Junk Soul for also having a pretty nice design. But wait, I hear you exclaim, didn't you say? With 4 though, the opening sets up what the baddies are going to be like, which is then followed by like 3 different tournament arcs. Man, after defeating certain Navis throughout the tournament arcs, Mega Man can actually inherit one of the Navi's souls, 3 different tournament arcs. But there's 6 per game, so what's up? Well, here's my biggest problem with the game, but it takes a weird bit of explaining. So, the story from the time that you boot up the game to the time that disaster is avoided is an extremely short adventure. And indeed, with only 1 playthrough, you can only obtain 3 of the 6 souls. Which ones you get kind of being random, and the other 3 not coming on the second play. Jesus. So, in the first playthrough, you get 3 of the 6 souls. Starting New Game Plus, you get a harder difficulty, as well as access to 2 more of the souls, meaning you only get 5. How do you get the last one? You have to play New Game Plus one more time, increasing its difficulty one more time further, granted, in order to get the 6th one. Having to play the game basically 3 times in order to get what should really be the most bare bones of abilities that Mega Man should be able to have is really frustrating to play. And with how short the story feels, adding to some really annoying tournament arcs, it makes for a very rushed experience that I feel has no proper payoff. The only thing that kind of helps it a little bit is the gameplay, which really only gets better from here. And that's basically it. The sprite work persists from here on out, so if you prefer the chibi art style, then you're in luck. It even goes into the predecessor of this series, the Star Force games. And the gameplay introduced here basically becomes the new template that you would see from here on out as well. And it's a really, really good one. But the story is pretty much the sole cause of frustration for this game, and surprisingly a detractor from the game as well, which is not really something that you see all that often. It's kind of usually the other way around. And sure, I played through Blue Moon like 6 times, but that was just so I could fully enjoy everything that Mega Man had to offer for his game, and it wasn't so much for the story, that's for sure. And I stopped caring about the story long after the game expected me to. I feel, at least. Who knows? Maybe in the next game we'll actually get the plot right next time and not create a gameplay feature that would probably make me want to pull my hair out. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you saw, you can click right up here to check out some of my other videos that I've done. Or, if you really feel like it, you can click right up here to subscribe. And until next time, guys, I will see you all later.